Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah. All right, good morning. We're gonna start the meeting and
Good morning.
well, just work. We don't have the middle screen for some reason.
Why are we?
But see, Commissioners meeting Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. Commissioner England and Commissioner Clark are here, and Commissioner Wozniak may be joining us, but is excused with absence. He has some things he had to do this morning, so meeting steady at 10. So gonna move on to public comment. As always, nothing.
No, thank
Okay, just making sure. The day I don't say it is the day you want to say something. So I'm going to start right off with department heads, and I'm going to go right to Catherine. Do you have something to present to us this morning, Catherine?
I do, thanks. I want to bring you an update on the passenger elevator work that we've talked about. So just to recap, back in August, the full body, the delegation appropriated up to $130,000 to redo the failed jack assembly in the old passenger elevator. An insurance claim was filed at the time. Stanley Elevator determined there was a catastrophic failure and speculated that the recent earthquakes may have been responsible for a bow in the cylinder. So at this point in time, Stanley wants us to sign the work contract so they can order the new jack assembly, which is a 2 to 3 month lead time, and then the installation takes about 2 to 4 weeks. Aaron, our new maintenance director, brought Stanley reps in last week to meet with us because the contract was somewhat vague and didn't have any not to exceed costs in it. And at that meeting, they shared a different worst case scenario than what we previously had been given and what I had spoken to with the elected officials, which was the $130,000 max. So what we've learned in 2 to maybe up to 5% of the time, work done down an elevator shaft, there could be the need for a subcontractor to drill it out depending on what they find in the elevator shaft. Generally, that cost is about $1,000 a foot, and our shaft is about 53 or 54 feet deep. And once you start this project, once you take out the cylinder, the PVC sleeve is pulled out, then the stability of the hole depends on what's in that soil below. So you can't just stop the project at that point in time. So I told Stanley that I'm not authorized to sign this kind of a blank check the way they've presented it to us. And luckily last week, our former maintenance director who retired, Bruce, had come in for a visit, and I was able to talk to him about our current elevator situation. And I asked him when he was overseeing the replacement of the jack and cylinder, the jack assembly project during his tenure a couple of years back, if this open-ended contract was standard. And he said, yes, that's what happens because it's such a slow or such a minor risk that you would have to do the drilling, that they proceeded and he knew, but he just, as he said, sweated bullets, and it turned out just fine. So this isn't an unusual way for an elevator company to present work in our situation. So Cheryl and I, we've scanned some old rollovers that we've been working through over the last couple of years. And we have these projects that they're targeted for different thoughts, but we could use them if the drilling had to happen and or if there's no insurance recovery money available. So we have figured out how we could probably fund the whole project in a worst case scenario without coming back to the elected officials or, needing any other taxes to be raised. So I just wanted to bring you up to date on that. It seems to me we really need to proceed with this project, but there's a new risk that I wanted to be making you aware of.
And the risk, explain again the cost of the risk is?
Approximately $1,000 per foot is what their subcontracting drilling companies would charge them. And we about 53 so odd feet is the depth of our elevator shaft.
Right.
And so I think the way it calculates out is that there's $130,000 appropriation.
Right.
There's a base of 99,000 or so that is known for the 130. There's some excess work that could be as low as 13,000 or maybe as high as 24 or something.
Correct.
And so therefore, even if you go to the high end of that would bring it to 122. So we've got or 123. So we got about $7,000 in the initial 130 that could help cover this potential $53,000 risk. And you're going to hear the same story in a short while with Sheriff, but we have some old rolled over funds that the rolled over funds, the projects may have just like come up slightly under. So we're going to, this is a way kind of to clean up these old rollover funds.
Which I'd love to do.
So this is the opportunity. I mean, if we don't have to use it, we don't, but otherwise we do have some old projects, you know, like some rolled over upholstery cleaning machine that Catherine had asked about in the event that they needed to upgrade because she was able to get something much cheaper, but it would be utilizing and repurposing some old rolled over funds in order to accomplish if in the event it is determined that they have to start drilling.
Catherine, did they tell you how long they anticipate that it could take to do that?
The drilling itself?
Well, I mean,
The whole project.
you know, get it
So
done.
once the drill jack it's arrived, because it takes a lead time. It's made exactly for the project because it has to be the right specifications, the size, the diameter, and that's a 2 to 3 month lead time. Once that arrives and they've got their team set, it's anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to then do this complete repair and get the elevator back up and running.
So in the interim, were you having to go to the other side of the building or something to use another elevator?
There's the other elevator right beside it, about 10 feet.
Yeah, there's 2 right there. There's 2 right there, and then we have 3 total in the buildings.
Guess I never noticed there were 2 of them there.
Yeah.
My private elevator to my suite.
Say, wow. It goes to the
He's
bed.
letting us use it, is what he said. So I think the biggest thing is we wanted to get this before you, so to make you aware of it, so that we can move forward. She can sign whatever she needs to for Stanley, so that they can get the parts ordered. We can get this project moving forward, though it's going to take a while because of the specialty work that needs to be done. So are you, would you, Commissioner England, make the motion to move forward to direct the nursing home administrator to sign the MOU agreement?
Just a quick question first, Catherine.
Sure.
When the apparent earthquake happened,
If necessary.
how much, what was the extent of the movement of the sidewall of the elevator shaft causing the problem right now? I was under the impression that was only 2 or 3 inches or something.
Actually even less than that. So the bow that they've determined is 1/2 inch. So the cylinder has been permanently bowed 1/2 inch over. And that's sufficient to be a catastrophic failure, because now what happens is inside the piston goes down into the shaft, into the cylinder, and the piston has rollers, guides, wheels around it. The wheels are never meant to touch the side of that shaft going down. They're only there if the load is unbalanced. So if somebody were to put all the weight on just one side of the elevator, it might push the elevator out of plumb, and therefore those wheels would track along the shaft to make sure that everything is safe. But what happened with whatever caused the bow in the shaft, now what happens is the piston goes down, and every time it goes up and down, it is tracking and scratching the inside of the cylinder itself. We actually put a camera down it earlier this week. We hired a company, we didn't do it. We hired a company to put a camera down it earlier this week. And the amount of metal shavings that you can see, like the scratches along the cylinder, and down at the very bottom, you can see a lot of metal accumulated and what's left of some of the wheels, because we've had to replace the wheels. You can see at the very bottom of the pit.
Okay, why then is it, how much per linear foot to be repairing? Did you say 1,500 or 15,000?
If the drilling, in the 2 to 5% of the chance risk that any drilling would have to happen, it is estimated at $1,000 a foot.
$1,000 per foot to be removing, just less than an inch? That much?
We don't still know what's causing the bow in it. So if for some reason the whole, how do I explain it? If the whole shaft has shifted somehow, which it doesn't seem like it because the bow is in the middle, but if somehow the shaft itself has leaned, then the drill has to go all the way down and re-drill and make it plumb.
Okay.
And whether it's that or whether it's a rock or whether there's ledge that's pushing into it, we won't know until they take all of the material that's down that hole. It has to all get taken out first. And then they have to take this vacuum down to clean out everything in there and make sure it's EPA corrected. And that's already been accommodated for in the money. It's really, really, really rare that you ever have to use the drill. But in our case, I'm not feeling quite as optimistic at the 2% mark, given that we don't know what caused the bow in the cylinder to begin with. You know, the theory is that the elevator, we believe, was on its way up to 4th floor during the largest earthquake that was registered 4.2 in New Jersey in April, making the elevator car to move back and forth. So in theory, perhaps because of the pressure on the cylinder and the wheels, forced it into, sorry, the piston forcing the wheels into the cylinder, bowing it out.
Okay. Thank you for that nice explanation, and I will make the motion.
So yeah, and the motion is to direct the nursing home administrator to sign all contracts necessary with Stanley Elevator and to utilize rollover funding if necessary to cover any, what did I write? Overruns above $130,000.
Second.
All right. Commissioner England,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
All right, you have that, you can move forward. Anything else?
Not for this morning. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug, do you have anything?
I do not. I'm just gonna be in and out a little bit and listening this morning. Thanks.
Okay. Kim, do you have anything?
Yes, I have two non-FMLA leave of absence requests. One for one of our RNs up at Maplewood. She has exhausted, as of yesterday, exhausted her FMLA, but needs a little more time to continue her rehab on her knee. Estimated return, I believe, she's saying now will be November 3rd. So I would just be looking for that 8-week extension on her FMLA.
So motion? Bob?
So move.
Second, what does she do to her knee?
I have no idea, but she had some kind of procedure done on her knee and it's just not rehabbing, so they're looking for some additional time to keep her off of her feet.
Okay.
Okay. And then the second one is that,
Commissioner England?
So,
And Commissioner
aye.
Clark? Yes.
the second one is one of our corrections officers at, obviously DOC. She does not yet qualify for FMLA, and her partner, her fiance, is due to have a baby September 29th, and she's only looking to take 2 weeks off. But doesn't qualify for FMLA. I would be looking for an approval for her to have a 2-week leave of absence.
So move.
So this would be without pay.
Yes,
So it's like a parental leave.
yes.
Commissioner England,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Thank you.
Okay. Cheryl, do you have anything aside from the swearing in?
Well, I have the TANs, but I can do that after, and then I'm here to support a conversation with the sheriff as well. So should we go on to the?
Let's do the swearing in next. I'm gonna go down to now scheduled items, and I'm gonna go down to master agenda item number 1202, approval of second deputy register of deeds. Cheryl Trombley is gonna talk to this as Anna's not able to be here. Acting effects to swear in second deputy register of deeds.
So, Anna came to me at the beginning of the week and, she has identified that it would be very useful for her department to have a second deputy that is able to step in when her current deputy is not available. Myra is actually on vacation this week, and so, and it's just something that she's realizing as session planning and whatnot, it's really good to have somebody. And so in researching the RSAs, she needs first the approval of the commissioners to be able to appoint a deputy register. And so she has asked to have Sonia Blake, who is a member of her staff, be the second deputy that would be in the acting capacity when the first deputy. And if you so approve that, then Kim, in her capacity of a notary public, has the authority to be able to then swear Sonia in.
So this is because everybody over at registry is retirement age, pretty much.
Myra is most definitely retirement age, and
You're
so,
not gonna retire.
no, not for a while.
All right,
So this would actually very much help that in the event that Myra did end up deciding to retire, which it's gonna happen at some point, not exactly sure
3
when.
cheers for youth.
So we need a motion to approve a second deputy register of deeds for the register of deeds. So second, all right, Commissioner England,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark. All right, so what we would do next is Kim would stand up here and you would come up and she would ask you to do whatever she needs to do, jump on that leg, dance
Yeah.
around.
Rub your belly and, yeah.
I don't know, I can do both, but.
I can't, so we're not gonna do that.
Okay.
All right, raise your right hand. I state your name,
I, Sonia Blake
of Keene, New Hampshire,
of Keene, New Hampshire,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will bear faith and true allegiance
that I will bear faith and true allegiance
to the United States of America
to the United States of America
and the state of New Hampshire,
and the state of New Hampshire,
and will support the Constitution thereof.
and will support the Constitution thereof.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I state your name,
I, Sonia Blake,
do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm.
do solemnly
and
swear
Sincerely.
and sincerely
Swear and affirm
swear and affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform all duties
discharge and perform all duties
incumbent on me
incumbent on me
as Deputy Register of Deeds
as Deputy Registry of Deeds
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
agreeably to the rules and regulations
agreeably to the rules and regulations
of the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire.
of the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Want to make sure to give a picture to Anna after. Yeah, I would take one of those too.
I have a little tab on the white paper.
So.
Okay.
Did you get a badge?
Do you have an extra one?
Thank you, Sonia.
All right, you're all good.
All good? Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sonia.
Have a great day, guys.
I'll definitely send these along.
Thank you.
All right, going back to the first agenda item, master agenda item number 1202, TAN review and signing. I know that the signing will come at the end, but Cheryl Trump is going to talk about action expected to have you and sign the TAN paperwork. So this is just an overview of what you're going to be signing later on because it's intense, labor intensive.
Yes, it's like signing a mortgage, so I need to make sure that I can't have you leave the room without knowing that you've signed every single thing. So, as you know, I had spoke, we were borrowing money in anticipation of taxes. The closing will be the 24th, where we'll have funds available to us as of next Wednesday. We've been provided a line of credit tax anticipation note in the amount of $9,750,000. This is a line of credit, so I will only draw down on it as needed. It will not be a total drawdown. The rate is that we accepted was a variable rate that was identified as the standard overnight financing rate, SOFR plus 125 basis points, which based on the most recent one was like 6.45 versus another quote that was 6.7. However, the paperwork that bond counsel got from the bank actually said 78% of the SOFR plus 125 basis points. So we'll take it. So I mean, that's even better. But anyway, this is the same paperwork I always have you sign. So you two are familiar, just so that everyone is aware in the room. There's basically a tax anticipation note certificate that goes into that the certain things were voted on in order to make the TANs allowable to be issued. And further, even before all of this happened, I had to send bond counsel all the required notices of meetings, vote of the executive committee that authorized the treasurer to vote in anticipation of taxes, that it was noticed in the newspaper. She has to go through and do all the due diligence and make sure that it was noticed so many days before the meeting. And so that it was all presented to her so that she could basically vouch for the fact that we did all our statutory requirements in order to borrow this fund. And then these are.
The person you're talking about is who?
The person I'm talking about is Renelle L. Hollier. She is bond counsel out of Divine Millimet. And so she prepared all this paperwork. There's also a full paperwork that is signature, no litigation certificate. This is basically stating that we don't have any litigation going on that doesn't authorize us to be able to borrow these funds. There's a no arbitrage clause, which basically is confirming that we're not borrowing this money just to turn around and make money, that we have use for it, and that it's going to be spent down in within the certain guidelines. It's like arbitrage is such that we're not going to have arbitrage because we're borrowing the money as we need it. But when we do those tax anticipation notes in the beginning of the year, when we did, and we'd like sit on a big chunk of money, and we would invest it, certainly, there's limitations on how much money you can make off of borrowed money. And it's basically, that's what this paperwork is. It's just basically saying that we're not borrowing this just to take advantage of our tax exempt status in order to then turn around and make money off of it. Then we've also got the actual note that you're going to sign off on that. This is the line of credit rider, which explains in great detail the confusing SOFR plus 120 basis of 125. But after I read it, I reached back out to my my connection at M&T, and I said, does this just simply say we're borrowing this at a variable rate of SOFR plus 125? He said yes. And Renelle has also confirmed the same thing. And then we also have our tax exempt government bond, which is basically something that has to go to the IRS, that is essentially confirming that these are tax exempt as long as we stay under 10 million of borrowing in a year, they can be tax exempt. So as I said, I'm going to have all this signed at the end because there's a lot to be signed, and I need to make sure that when I hand it off to one person that I can check, because if you all leave and then I find out later I'm missing a signature, I'm going to have to chase you down. So we'll do the sign.
To Chuck's point, well, it's only been a couple of weeks, so the rate is changed.
So the only, I haven't actually look to see what the SOFR is, but
They could change at 2 o'clock today.
and if it's gonna change, it will likely go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know,
But-
I'm just asking if it has.
Yeah, I
seem to be concerned about that. So yeah, they have announced, Fed has announced.
That they're gonna,
Yeah,
You're going, but they just don't know if it's, you know, 0.5 or 0.25, whatever.
no, it's really too bad that we can't get ahead of this tax thing. It occurred to me when I was treasurer, and I first learned about that. I thought it was like, gosh, no kidding, is that every town, every county, every state probably borrows money in anticipation of taxes, the amount of interest, ancillary costs, such like that.
Well, really
Must be absolutely,
what comes down to the one time a year. I mean, doesn't it? I mean, December 17th is a magical day,
Yeah.
right?
it's not often that it's like our interest income for the year is way exceeding what we're gonna end up spending
Yeah.
in interest expense. The years that we have to borrow at the front end, it kind of is a wash. It's not often that you end up seeing that your borrowing costs that you can't turn around and somewhat invest it close to the amount. Of course, there was the year where we were borrowing money at 0, but we were also getting 0 return on it as well. However, there are some counties and some municipalities that work on a fiscal calendar year starting July 1 versus January 1. And when you make that transition, you basically have to set I don't know if it's a 1.5 budget or a 2-year budget. You have to when you make that transition, you have to
18
do
months.
an 18
18
month budget. So when you do that, your taxes to be raised for that 18-month period are higher because you have to get through that. And then by going to a July 1, in many cases, you're sitting on enough fund balance that with the taxes being collected December 17th, you may not have to borrow. So it is, something that's been toyed around with. It's not an easy undertaking to
Oh,
make
yeah,
that
no, I was
transition
just
from a January 1
because-
to July 1.
because when we got the ARPA money, we were able to lower the TAN to 0.
I think
That one year, that first year.
No.
we've always had a small, but the ARPA
Well,
funds.
it wasn't 18 million like it was 4 years.
Something like that.
Right, you were absolutely right. We have, in some of it's the ARPA, but some of it's also this bump up in pro share funds.
Right.
Between the ARPA and the bump up in pro share funds that it's allowed us to get over the hump of the April, May, or May, June. And because by the end of June, we're getting infused with about 5 million or more in cash again, that now just gets us through the months. So yes, the ARPA most definitely helped. But the ARPA, as you remember, that was in a separate fund. It
Yeah.
was not commingled with our general fund. And when we did use it, it was being used for one-time projects that no, some of it was for payroll as we bumped the payroll up.
Yeah, premium, but then we changed that,
But yeah, so
took away from pro share.
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into this. This is
Right.
just my ideological
yeah,
dreaming, to do.
yeah, but it has been very nice to get away from having to borrow in April, May, a big chunk of money. And then just doing this, but we have an October 1st bond for it's either the jail or the nursing home. That is over $2 million that's due. And then we have the nursing home or jail, whichever one it was, that wasn't on October 15th in the same amount. So that's why at this point we need the money, because we won't have money to pay these huge bond payments.
I
and
just
then
wonder sometimes when all this started,
borrowing money.
Borrowing.
I've been borrowing money.
For 10, you know, in town government, state government, I mean,
Well, you know, what's interesting. Well, first of all, probably more than I need to share on here, but we've been borrowing in anticipation of taxes since I've been here. As a matter of fact, I used to write the sale and put it out to the different potential
Yeah.
bidders, but then it got so regulated, you had to work with a financing team or whatnot, but I used to work for Indian Head National Bank. And I used to work with the municipalities on these TANs and line of credit. So it's been going on a long time. It's what tax anticipation notes are. They're basically the need to borrow money, waiting for tax collection from the constituents. So it's how you.
we try to talk way too long.
Yeah.
I should.
No, it's actually think it's worthwhile. I mean, one of the county conversations I am gonna have is with Cheryl. And
So
we're going to
excited.
talk about some of these things, and it may put some people to sleep, but other people may find it really interesting. The historical process that we've done over the years and why we have to do some of the things that we do, and that there are so many checks and balances in place along the way. On our side, even on higher levels that we have to meet all the time, so. I think it's worthwhile whenever we can tell that story, so. All right, I'm gonna move on, but I'm gonna keep it, yes, go ahead.
I don't know, I don't think we need a motion. It's, it can just be reflected in the minutes that the TANs paperwork were signed.
Yeah, because I think we pretty much did a motion a while ago.
Yeah, you've already approved the authorization and it's not even as if, like I said, Jack, I may be seeing him tomorrow. I'm gonna have him sign them outside of the meeting and the treasurer is not available till Friday. So it's always ideal to get as many of you together at the same time.
Certainly because of our faith and confidence in you, Chris.
Yeah.
We will without question sign it.
It's not what you were saying last week.
What was that?
It's not what you were saying last week. All right.
I just didn't say it last week.
Thanks.
I'm gonna just go off script a little bit because I know that there's another issue that's not on here that department head wise, but sheriff was out when we were going through department heads on the phone. So is there anything that we need to bring up with you and Cheryl about some monies that need to be covered?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Money. When I prepared last year's budget, I know we lease our vehicles. So in preparing the budget, I accidentally forgot to add a lease payment of $26,000 for a couple of our cars. And when the bill came in and we sent it in to Cheryl, she said, oops. So what we, Cheryl in her wisdom, realized, hey, we have several of capital project rollovers that go back many years that we can put together and make that payment, and then we'll kind of make sure we add it next to this coming budget. So she was able to put together a bunch of capital projects that we've had back to 2018 that have been rolled over but never spent, or there was no need to spend, that she came up with the funding that will clear out all those prior capital project rollovers and make this payment without having to make any budget amendment or anything like that, or.
It's too late for a budget
I
amendment.
mean, not budget, but to try to find the money, but I think with that, it will clear us 4 or 5 different capital projects that were out there with funding still left that we're just kept rolling, and we just want to clean that up to use that for payment, so.
Similar to Calvin's, if you could just authorize the use of some mobile. In fact, this will be helpful because we'll be cleaning up things that I just keep carrying.
So what would meet the standard of motion for you?
Very similar to authorize the payment of the second lease payment of the 2023 sheriff vehicle lease with Old rollover to repurpose Old.
Second.
Commissioner England,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark. But
That cleans up a lot.
So
Small amount,
Did all
cleaned it all up.
So I'm going to go get Suzanne to talk about one of yours. I don't think we're doing one of yours, not both,
Correct.
right? Okay. And And then hopefully Dennis will be there, and if not, I'll get into my discussion on, and then Dennis Calcutt will be joining us after that.
I'm sorry. So that's probably not. But for me.
So you're one.
Hey, Don. Right. Bring a hold for a second.
Coffee. Hold it. I'm out. You can't run on way that you say.
That's why I said we're in a hold.
We can't operate without coffee.
Oh, right. Oh, wait, there's no coffee?
No, that's not coffee. Davis is here.
Davis is not here.
No, there's. Yeah,
We'll make
you know how to
it.
make it?
Well,
You
gotta
know
prove
anybody
that,
know how to
Jack.
make it?
I think I might be able to figure it out.
Well, there's no coffee here. They keep it somewhere else.
It's
It's
down
in the
below.
bottom, it's in the.
It's in the bottom.
Shelf.
Just look below.
No,
On the right-hand
now-
side.
Now everybody knows, you know. Top secret.
I'm actually thinking about banning coffee
Yeah, well, just because you don't drink it, but you drink Coke.
occasion, less and
Yeah.
less. Actually, I don't drink Coke, I drink Pepsi.
Oh, wow, that makes
And-
a whole difference, doesn't it?
But if you look at a lot of the drip on the carpet, it's coffee.
We don't drip.
Well, that's why we went to carpet squares.
Yeah. We can pull them up every 10 minutes. So, okay, I'm gonna keep moving on and,
I will not be put up.
I'm guessing it's the, master agenda item number 12, 1204, interlocal agreement justice, assistant grant. The JAG grant, Suzanne Bensley is here along with the sheriff. As you expect to have the commission review and approve the justice assistant grant MOU, is that right?
That's right. Good morning. I'm Suzanne, I'm the grants manager. And this is a grant that we get just about every year. In fact, I recently went back to check out what our history with it was. And this year it's one of the lower amounts, 10,305 in total. And it is a function, the amount is a function of total federal allocations to all grantees within the program. And it's divided up based on the total allocation available and violent crime. So the fact that it went down is both that the Department of Justice reduced its budget and City of Keene and County of Cheshire, thank you, Eli, have reduced violent crime. Whereas that is good for the community.
That's
It's a tad less money for the grant, but it's a good thing. We will be splitting it 4,684 for the City of Keene, same amount for the Sheriff's Department, and 937 will go to indirect expenses. And we seek a vote to sign an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the City of Keene. And if you have any questions on the program, Eli can answer them, and I can answer any questions on the grant.
Those funds have been offsetting our use of cell phones and connectivity to the cruisers. Doesn't cover all of it, but it helps offset the total amount, which is beneficial with this. With all the cruisers have their own cell connection for the MDTs for the mobile terminals, and then the cell phones that the deputies carry themselves. So it helps offset that cost that we have.
Incidentally, we've been using it this way since 2016 and the City of Keene since 2018.
Who is the provider of these funds?
Department of Justice, federal.
And so move.
Okay, Commissioner England,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark. Okay.
I
And
will
then
be back for
I'll be back.
Connected Families, see you guys soon.
Okay.
Don't miss
And
me too much.
we're gonna put on more time, or we're gonna just hold off on the other grant that's listed in here.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, yes.
Because there may be an opportunity, or there may be a higher level of request, correct?
Or different requests you have, purchase order that you're trying away. This is for the body.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, we're trying to see that we can combine it with the current needs that we have.
Okay,
So we're working out details.
Yeah.
all right, thank you. I know that, yep, Thank you. Dennis Kelcut will be joining us shortly, but in the meantime, I asked Don Bliss to be here today along with the chief. You know, we've been working on a strategic plan, and we want to periodically give you guys update. And I know he has handouts for those too, but we want to just give you where things stand, and we'll bring him back at some point down the road and see where they are. But we're hoping to get a bigger vision, you know, where we need to be in the future for EMS, so that we can, I think for many reasons for us, but also at the same time for those that
For the county.
have the towns that want to know, what is our vision? Well, it is. This is our vision statement. This is our mission statement. This is, you know, what we see ourselves doing in the next year, next 3 years, whatever. If you break this, I just want you to know, because I can't get the middle one to work for some reason today.
Still going here.
Okay.
See if I can pull up the power.
Yeah, it's on. See the red light?
No, it needs to be.
Oh, is that what it is?
Red light.
Oh, I was afraid that if I hit that. It's right here. It's right here. If it comes on. I'm gonna be really. You know, I wish Davis was there.
No. Oh, we'll go to the handouts.
Took you 45 minutes to say that.
Yeah, that's.
Did he go around the building and shut everything off before he left?
I know you like secrets yesterday. There's not a,
There is.
but I mean, I'm just saying.
Yep, sure.
Is this the remote? Is this the remote?
That's.
As long as you don't have like charts and graphs that are too small, we can
See
probably.
that
see it
there?
here.
It's on both.
Yeah.
Yes, that hurts.
I'll get out of the way.
You give you a handout.
Oh.
Look at that.
Yeah, you might see the part right there.
That's turning the TV on. That's what that was. Take me a second. Where you going?
How are you done?
Good yourself.
Good.
At least on that scale. Yeah.
So, just gave me an hour and a half to present today.
Funny guy.
So, as Chris mentioned, you asked MRI to help with the development of the strategic plan for Cheshire County EMS. And spent some time identifying a team to be part of this. And the goal was to represent not only all of the ranks in the organization, but also the skill levels. So you'll see on the list of members of the planning team includes the chiefs, the deputy chiefs, and we have paramedics, several paramedics, we have advanced EMTs, we have EMTs. Davis is on there representing Chris, you folks, and then I'm there to provide support to the team. So we've had 2 meetings so far, both very productive. I want to run through with you what we've accomplished so far and then talk about the results. So progress to date, we've developed a strategic planning process, which you have the outline of that in front of you, which I'll walk through with you. We've updated the mission statement for the organization, which had previously existed. We wordsmithed it a little bit, shortened it up a little bit, made it precise. The same is true of the vision statement. And we'll also revise the core values and core beliefs. Now, in our most recent meeting, we did two, I think, very, very important things. One is we conducted a SWOT analysis, which is really an inherent part of this process. And that's an exercise where we brainstormed and worked through what we believe to be the strengths of the organization, weaknesses, the opportunities, threats. And the other handout you have with you kind of explains exactly what goes into the SWOT analysis. So if you think of, and I'm going to walk through that in a minute too. And then the second thing we did at that meeting was we had a presentation from Henry Underwood from the Southwest Region Planning Commission. The strategic plan is only going to be as good as the data that we put into it. So Henry was able to provide us with a good deal of projections about the future of Cheshire County, population, demographics, population growth, workforce activities, industrial growth, and so on. So very, very helpful to us, gives us an perspective of what to be looking for as we go forward. This is the mission statement. I won't read it to you, but it incorporates what the organization feels is its mission. And it really encompasses all of the things that the organization does. Vision statement is a forward-looking statement that really identifies what the pure vision, the future goal, and an ideal world where Cheshire US would like to be as the preeminent provider of emergency medical care in the communities that they serve, setting the standard for excellence in patient care, innovation, and community well-being, which speaks well to the aspirations of the organization. Core beliefs, again, I won't read these, but they're what you would imagine should be in a progressive, modern organization. And when you see the strategic plan for each of these core beliefs, there will be a sentence that explains that. There will be a sentence that explains exactly what each of those items are. And although each of these items are important, the group did place these in order of what they feel is the most important thing to be talking about first. So when we get to the SWOT analysis, I think of the strengths of the existing conditions that can be built upon and can be further improved. And I pulled out just three examples for each of these categories. We do have quite a lengthy list of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But I wanted to give you an example of those things. So under strengths, the group believes that they have that staff is really one of the premier strengths of the organization, both in terms of the numbers of staff, quality of the individuals, their skill levels, and their diversity of backgrounds and experience. Secondly, pay and benefits, right up to the top. You offer a retirement system, you offer a great health system, competitive pay scale. And then they also identified the Cheshire Medical Center medical director and the medical direction of the organization sees being one of the greatest strengths that we have. So that's an external strength, but it impacts the organization itself.
Who in fact is the medical director?
It's Dr. Jim Swozy. And he's in close contact with Mark Reamer, who's the deputy chief in charge of clinical services. They're in regular contact with person, email, phone, incredible. That's what is able to keep your high skill levels where they are. Under weaknesses, these are items that, again, the process is not one of pointing fingers or saying this is wrong, you guys screwed up. Really, just for the group to have a very, very careful introspection, identify those weaknesses that can be improved, built upon. They need additional resources, they need additional attention, they need additional funding. For example, supply tracking and inventory. It's now basically an annual system.
Yes.
And there's room for improvement with that. Inconsistency in shift supervision. This is not a surprise, it's not unusual. If every organization that has different shifts or different platoons, different supervision faces this challenge. Now, it can be a good thing in terms of each shift supervisor has a different skill set, has a different management style. And if they use that appropriately and play off the strengths of their shift, then they have a strong shift there as well. And have 4 different platoons that operate differently, but at a very high level. On the other side, if the policies are not being adhered to properly or not being enforced, if discipline is not being enforced, if the culture of the organization is not being adhered to at a high level, that's a bad thing. So we want to find that balance, and this is an area that needs to work. Cellular communications coverage, which I think is a challenge. There are opportunities. We've got a long list of opportunities. These are the things we'll see in the strategic plan for the future. Not all of them, because certainly the organization isn't doing everything they would like to do, but there are time constraints, staff constraints, funding. These are 3 that I pulled out that I thought was worth about. One is the opportunity to create a mobile integrated health program, MIH program. This is the way to the future. It's also called a community paramedicine program. And it's a partnership with the hospital, with the care providers in the community to enable a paramedic or an advanced EMT to go into a home and provide additional care or help monitoring to the patient. May have just returned from the hospital, who is maybe on long-term care, but it's basically the modern version of your doctor's visit to your home. And what it does is it reduces costs, it reduces return visits to the hospital, and it's a great opportunity for the county to provide service to its citizens. Second area is that as a county-based system, the organization has the opportunity to provide specialized regional resources to the area, such as mass casualty incident response capabilities, disaster resources, all kinds of things under the specialized umbrella that the county is in a position to provide. The third area that I know that this is an area that Chris is interested in, the organization would like to do more of, is community education. This is the prevention aspect of EMS, of teaching CPR, of teaching automatic external defibrillator response, of teaching stop the bleed programs, asthma intervention. There's all kinds of things that can be done in the community education. So those are examples of what we've identified in the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis then begins to become the basis for working forward with goals and objectives. Oh, I forgot about threats. Here are some threats. These are external factors that we may not be able to control, but we may be able to mitigate, or we should be aware of because we could have impact in the organization. One of the things we learned from Henry's presentation, how we're aware of this, is we have a aging population. There's potential for reductions in payments for private insurance and government programs. It's something for the future. We don't know about it, but it's a threat that is always out there. So that's needs to be incorporated into planning. And there's also an effort by the federal government to impose new regulations, new health and safety regulations on public safety agencies. So that's something that we need to monitor. Could have some tremendous cost and training impacts on the organization. It's going to affect the fire service, and affect volunteer organizations. It really could have a tremendous impact. So some of the key takeaways from the Southwest Regional Planning Commission presentation. Population here in the region has been slowly increasing. The region is becoming more diverse. As I mentioned before, population is aging, and there's some real interesting numbers here, where right now, people in the 55 to 59 age range are the single largest age cohort in the Southwest New Hampshire and in Cheshire County. Now, what does that mean? That means that group is going to move into that higher age bracket very, very soon. And so right now, people over the age of 65 have increased as a percentage in every community in Cheshire County. So 1 in 5 residents are age 65 and older. 2040, that's going to be more than 40% of the population. What does that mean to EMS, more transports, more facility transfers, more critical care calls? It's going to have a tremendous impact as we move forward the next 5 to 10 years.
Don,
Yes.
the only, it's a little misleading. The population has slowly been increasing, and it has. But what we're seeing is retirement, levels of retirement are outpacing the growth of population. So that's a real threat to us.
Yes, it is, very much indeed. And this other, this last bullet, last 2 bullets, the fact that 15% of county residents have some form of disability, and almost 20% of individuals 20 or 65 years of age or older are suffering from Alzheimer's disease or dementia, and their impact for EMS. We do have a workforce that's declining, but to your point, because there's a need for more housing to accommodate population increases and certainly the age shift. So there may be more 55 and older communities or continuous care communities.
And I would just add one other thing to that, and that is childcare. Because that's a deterrent too right now in our areas. People are paying an arm and a leg if they can find childcare. And some people are staying home because it's cheaper for them to stay home than pay everything and then some to childcare.
So, Henry also provided us with some population projections. Obviously, the first few years looking out are probably the most accurate. Further out, you get. So the green is the it's that 20, orange is 2030. Excuse me, blue is 2020, green is 2040. So green is more fuzzy projection. Hard to read, but helpful to know. Another interesting factor on commuting patterns. We've got about 30,000 commuters who live and work in Cheshire County, coming in from another state or southern New Hampshire County. About 7,000 residents commuting to another county or another state and or another 8 or 9 counties. So these numbers give you an idea of the impact for EMS, both in terms of population increases as closer in the day, but also increased traffic. And that also reflects in traffic, not only of passenger vehicles, but mass transportation and larger vehicles, hazardous materials, larger vehicles that are going to be in crashes. That's so what are our next steps? Next step, now we're going to dig into the need of actually developing some specific goals and objectives. And we're going to be looking for input from some of our key stakeholders. The way we're going to do that is not only interviews, but also survey instruments. So we'll be looking to area fire chiefs, area leaders, for you folks, any of the other stakeholders that EMS interacts with, or that could have an impact and opinion or view in terms of what should EMS be doing in the future. So we're developing the survey tool, and then for each objective that we identify in the plan, we'll have to create timelines, what priority it is, fiscal and other resource needs, an action plan with it, what its purpose is, measures of success, and then of course who is going to be responsible for doing it. Can't just have a plan that everybody says, oh yeah, that's great, you have a plan. There has to be some line of accountability that shows to measure the progress on that. We'll then be presenting to the employees on the key elements of the plan, and of course, not only regular updates to you folks, coming back to the final approval. There are things in there that you don't feel are appropriate, achievable, financially affordable, and kind of plan.
Come back to that, what typically is done to make sure that people in the organization are always aware of what's in that plan?
So one of the goals of the committee that I put up there originally was to, they're the eyes and ears of what's going on in the organization. Ask them to go back and say, hey, we're working on this particular issue. What do you think? Should we be just getting their input, feedback back? One of the ground rules though that we set was until we're ready to really get ready to finalize this, we don't want a lot of the internal discussions shared externally, because there may be some things that we talk about that if they get misrepresented to the organization, it's going to result in rumors and so forth. So if we talk about, oh, there's a possibility that funding could be cut, we're talking about something way in the future. People start talking about that around the kitchen table, it turns into, oh, we're gonna have layoffs, we're gonna have a budget cut next year. Oh, the county commissioners are not supporting us. We don't want that snowball.
Which is none of it's true.
Which is none of it's true.
I just want to clarify that.
But you said,
That's why we. Just an example of stuff can easily get taken out of context when we're in a roundtable discussion with this group. We want the conversation in that group to be as open and honest and introspective as possible. So talking about challenges the organization faces, we don't want, you know, a kind of negative viewpoint out to the organization. So that's kind of walk that fine line between getting input, sharing information that's appropriate, and yet making sure that does that help?
yeah.
Questions?
A very interesting presentation. Thank you very much.
You.
Yeah. So, we do have some non-public today that I may ask that you guys stay around for, at least one of them. And so, just to get an update on towns, where things stand. So, we'll go from there, but I know that Eli came back up for a reason, and it's normally because he forgot something that he needs to.
No, I just got the email this morning. I didn't forget anything. Come on, it's not that bad.
What do you have?
Last year, I talked to IT about an upgrade to IMC software, which does records management, and there was an opportunity for us to kind of get our records management system up to date. And we realized that once we went into the year that we actually did not need the upgrade. So and there was an allocation of $4,200 to IT's budget for that IMC upgrade. So he's not using that funding right now. But as you know, we've been having Dave Duval, our technician, do the upgrade of the computer system of the cameras of the county, outdoors and indoors, saving us a lot of money by having him do it. And what we determined, and also at IT's recommendation, is that we have a standalone computer that is only dedicated for the cameras because of the videos and stuff like that. It takes a lot of load on it being on a network and using a regular day-to-day computer. So IT has given us a quote to get a computer dedicated to reviewing the videos that are from the cameras throughout the county, this county building, at $2,100. And we want to ask the commission to authorize IT to use those fundings that were allocated for the IMC upgrade to be used to get a computer dedicated for the cameras throughout the building. So there will be it's about $2,200 for that computer versus the 42 that we had scheduled for the IMC upgrade, which we did not do.
So we had desktop.
It'll be a desktop standalone, which means it will have for quicker download, be able to actually examine. Right now, we're using the regular PCs that has everything else that we do throughout the day on it. And the download and the resolutions are very poor, so we are it kind of defeats the purpose of having a system that it's very slow. And We have some funding that we've been allocated throughout the budgets to upgrade the county, cameras, which are very old. But we realize that with the current system and stuff like that, we need something that just dedicated for the cameras. We have, I think, probably 30 cameras throughout this building, the different floors and the outside and things like that, so.
Would the information from that designated computer be available from your desk, for example?
Yes, we can then access it to a web link. That's absolutely, but it just needs it because there's been times when we have to look at something real quick and it just takes forever. The buffering and because the computer that we're using were not purchased for the purposes of handling that load of videos. They were more purchased for the purpose of, Microsoft Word, data entry and things like that. And when you work with video and enhancements, you need something that has that video graphic card.
So video on that camera right there.
These are
How long is it?
these
How
are
long
the,
is it that data kept before it goes to something?
right now, since that's another thing, Tom, we're anywhere between 3 to 6 months.
That long?
Yeah.
I so move.
Okay. Is that Commissioner England,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Thank you.
So we're gonna be utilizing monies that were initially put together
Allocated
for
for-
software upgrades. And to a portion of that to be able to play desktop. Right. All right, and now we're on hold because we lost.
Well, what did I say?
Coffee being done.
Hello.
Yeah.
Chase him right out of the room.
I know, they just kicked him right out.
I know.
Well, thank you, appreciate that. I just got the email from this morning, that's why I just.
I remembered. I wrote it
I
down.
wouldn't know, so.
Uh-oh.
Nice.
We are at some point, I don't know if we'll be down or not.
Then, so Chad, June, the city put us on the run card. Prior to that, we were notified how. And why has the change made it harder to track?
So basically, we were toned out by 415 when Keene would go to code 1 status.
And that's an automatic thing when they know all vehicles are busy?
So that puts them basically at level 0 on, and it was decided by the chief and I that just for ease of less communication
Toned out, wait, say it's toned out by,
on the pagers, it's
no,
toned
what,
by
no, what did you just say, toned out by?
415 Southwest Mutual Aid.
And so now the change has occurred.
We're just an automatic, once they are out of resources and need another ambulance, we get toned to respond.
So again, what's the difference? Why is it harder to track? I mean,
Yeah, it's because it's manual on our side of, we were tracking the code ones manually of, I would have each shift captain sit there
and write down.
and write down, oh, 1 code 1, 2 code 1, 3, and keep track that way. So I can basically add the numbers now of that 110 when we stopped
Mhm.
counting,
Mhm.
10, 120. Because again, there were times that the captain may not have documented it 100% accurately. Because again, it's all manual, so you have the human error aspect, myself included when I've been covering. And then just adding the number of responses that we have, which is in the data I sent you last week.
Mhm.
And that hasn't really changed up through this morning, FYI, as far as the numbers go. That would be the total times that we were covering.
We were actually in the city because we could be notified that we're now not notified. We're now not notified that we're up. Now it's, if a call comes in, we're next on the card.
Correct.
Before, we were being notified that we were up, and And so that gave us an indication that we are. So now they could be out, but we don't know that yet because we haven't been notified.
Correct.
Okay, now I'm
What
starting to
was-
understand.
It used to be a manual process or it now?
It still is. It's still a manual process, and we spoke with chiefs over at Southwest. And we asked, can you track how many times a code one goes out? And they're like, no, we don't really even keep track of it. We just tone it out when all their resources.
But the difference here is before you were notified that you were next, you were up, you're up.
Yes.
Now it's, you're not notified unless a call comes in to the city of Keene. City of Keene may be out of people and buses, but if there's not another call coming in, you're not notified.
Correct.
Before, that's the difference. That's what I had to get in my head. That's what's been the sticking point. So before it was,
Give you a heads up.
it was, they gave you a heads up, you're up. You know, we need you. And now it's, we're not telling you we need you, but secretly, double secret probation wise, you are up. But you were just, no call comes in, then you're not, you don't know it. So that's like, that's dumb. Because how do we trace how many times we're made aware that we're up for the city?
Well, that would be like tracking how many times we're up for any one of our
Yeah,
coverages or backup towns, because honestly, we don't.
you don't know in Winchester, you don't know it, right, yeah.
If they have coverage or not, so it still kind of goes back to my old adage of. The tone goes off on our pages and it says Cheshire County EMS, regardless of the address, we're gonna respond as long as we have the resources to do so.
Okay,
But yes, that's the difference, but in my mind of responding, it's not any different from any other 24-hour period.
you know, with some of the towns that we don't have, we don't cover for. I was in a meeting yesterday with the regional aid chiefs, as was Don. And it was interesting to hear that some of these towns are going without staffing. I mean, they're just rolling the dice.
Yep.
It's more frequent than I thought. And I didn't know anything about it.
That kind of relates to Don's picture of, you know, how many residents that live and work in Cheshire County. And how many of them are leaving during the day
Yeah,
and versus those that are coming. Most of the ones that are leaving during the day, because that's your volunteer force.
Yeah.
That's what is unfortunately crumbling in most smaller communities throughout the state and really nationwide. For that, so, and the OSHA regulations that Don alluded to, that could crush an awful lot of them. Even more so because they don't have the manpower or the staffing rather. And they're not funded enough to implement any of these potential regulations.
Can I ask a question on that? When you said public safety, would that have any impact on the sheriff? Or is it more fire and EMS?
I don't know the answer to the law enforcement question.
And so, I mean, I kind of see this similar to what CMS is putting on regulations for staffing, regulations, limitations or maximums, minimums for RNs.
right.
But that will be, I mean, it's like one of those double-edged swords. No
It's in
staff
the
that's available.
status now, OSHA proposed the rule changes. They got public comment. Public comment was mostly opposed to it, so now they've gone back, they have to respond to public comment.
I guess it further begs to argue that, as the chief has mentioned, EMS is not what is that terminology?
Essential
Essential service.
service.
Fire is, but
So
EMS
does
is
law
not,
enforcement.
so it's interesting that, you can put those.
It's not an essential service until you need it.
Right, it's like health insurance.
Yeah.
You're like, why am I paying so much for this? And then, oh, that's why I'm paying so much for this.
Who determines it?
Pardon?
Who determines who's essential?
Legislative.
So legislature.
But that then forces the potential that it has to be funded at some level. Whereas, you know, we're in this,
That's why it's,
Like
that's
dilemma
what
of-
drives.
Don, you were gonna say?
That's what they're doing is expanding the old fire brigade regulation, and now it's being expanded to include workers who provide emergency medical services after search and rescue. So it's gonna cover improved safety and health practices, baseline medical screening, required medical surveillance. Aligned with, which we already do, the National Incident Management System. So it's gonna require, it's gonna. Tremendous impact.
Tactical rescue. That, to me, that's rather broad reaching.
Yep.
Because of the potential events that are plaguing the entire country right now. Tactical can lead into the law enforcement or the fire side because of the active shooter drills or that. And what he was reading there, that's basically the rehab aspect that we already do with fire services on extended fire scene of checking the firefighters, making sure that their vital signs are still okay, that they're not gonna drop while they're on the fire grounds themselves. And they're supposed to rotate out periodically so that we can do this, which believe me is rather difficult to do with some firefighters to get them out of the fire. But you're also gonna see that with tactical, law enforcement tactical teams because of what they're doing. If it's a longer standoff, I'm sure that they have, and I don't know 100% on this, but I'm sure that they have the same type of rehab requirements to make sure that their tactical team members aren't getting dehydrated or too exhausted during that situation. So that is going to impact EMS in one way, shape, or form.
All right, thank you.
There's a public hearing in November.
I'm gonna again excuse myself and tell Suzanne that we're ready to do another item that she covers. I saw her, she was speaking. You'll be out in a second. Dennis, why don't you step up to the
In my heart.
square, I guess that is. Which square? This one right here. So next on our master agenda item is number 1203, SAMHSA Community Mental Health Services for Children Connected Families Expansion Grant Award Acceptance. Suzanne Bansley and Dennis Kelcutt are here to speak on it. Action expected. Signed certificate to vote to accept an award for $4 million over 4 years to improve children, youth mental health outcomes by creating brief enhanced care coordination programs, expanding access to intensive in-home supports.
Morning. I'm Suzanne. This is Dennis. This is Jen. Jen works with me in Grant. Dennis is the new prized program director of another SAMHSA, which is Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration grant. This is a $4 million grant. It will be treated as 4 $1 million grants, 1 million for each year. It has a total of 2 million over the 4 years in match, which will be met entirely by the care management entity state contract. And this is good through September of 2028. We will be expanding the program services that Connected Families already provides with brief enhanced care coordination and in-home supports. It also comes with a long list of other required activities, which are pretty much all being done, but will be continued under this funding. Dennis, would you like to tell them about the program?
I think the probably the biggest highlight to this is it's the accumulation of work that's occurred now in about 10 years. It started with a planning grant into an implementation grant, an expansion grant. But Suzanne reminded me as we were talking through this that the first grant that we received was scored a 78, 79. The next one was scored an 86. This was scored a 90. And I think a big reason for that was the data that we've been collecting. over the time period of the work. And that's done with Jim Fowler, the Behavioral Health Improvement Institute of Keene State. And what they started to identify is that families that we are working with are going into wraparound because that's what exists, not necessarily because that's what's best for them, that's what they're capable of participating in. So what this is meant to do is to try to look to expand those services to be able to provide another service that may be more brief. The wraparound right now is 12 to 18 months. So you have to have the right family with the right capability and skills and match to be able to do that. And so this will allow us to test out a new model to try to provide a briefer service to help that family get to another place. And then also, can we access and provide better contracted support and in-home service that might be able to support those families a little more seamlessly than what we do right now. So all this is done in collaboration with the state of New Hampshire. So they've signed off on this grant. The long-term goal of this is to test this stuff out, to see if we can then fold into Medicaid benefit that we already have for this work, and provide, and then that would be expanding the service across the state with the other care management entity working with us to provide that. But that's the long-term goal. We got to get started. We got to see where it takes us. There's always, Suzanne and I have found out that there's no. It's amazing where you start in year one and where you end up in year four with respect to this work. But we've also learned a lot. Probably I'd say some of the bigger highlights that I think we've really focused in on with this is we're really focusing in on getting the service there. SAMHSA loves that you provide training and that you do all these things and we exceed those numbers. But if your numbers of families that you're touching are not at the level they want them to be, that's what they're focused on. So this is really, this opportunity is really focusing in on that. We will be doing, as Suzanne said, those other pieces. A lot of this is done in collaboration with already work that's happening across the state in the system of care effort. 988 and rapid response is a big piece of this.
Trauma informed
across, how we've done a lot of work in this time, but it really is enabling us another opportunity. And it's tremendous that you see us a great partner. See this as a next step forward.
Incidentally, this is the 4th grant in succession that we've had from them with no interruption year over year.
And I think that's what I was going to say, but the other point is, what we learned in the other grants is that if you're not getting to the services fast enough, that means you have unspent dollars, and those unspent dollars are tough to carry forward, and they become tougher to carry forward.
Yeah.
SAMHSA has been stricter in that process, but we've also learned that if you stay within that 25%, you spend all your dollars. You don't want to go over 25% of unspent dollars in a year, because if you're under that, you get to decide, you get to carry it right over. Whereas if you're over that, they want more oversight. Naturally so, I don't have a problem with that. It's just that it's saying to us, we got to get this started, get this moving.
In some of the earlier years, we didn't have any amounts deobligated. We had our entire carryover request approved. And also some of those approvals took literally a year to get. You could tell from conversations, they never read a thing. They did not have the kind of oversight and staffing in their counterpart grant management, contract management that they have now. So 7, 8, 9 years ago, when we were at our very beginning stages, not only were we learning, but they were learning and they were understaffed. Now they look at these programs even more closely than ever, which I think is difficult to work with for sure on different levels, but it's also a compliment to the work that Dennis has been doing over these years, that with ever more greater scrutiny, not only did they score the application higher, but we got it as well, and they want to continue working with us.
I think, a highlight to it is what Suzanne and I learned is when you write these reports for SAMHSA, when they're asking about your progress, how you've done, the first question they ask is, has the leadership changed?
Mm-hmm.
And so, which is striking to me, is like, well, that's what they're trying to track. And we've been fortunate. And I think that's a credit to the county.
Mm-hmm.
It's a credit to the partnership within the county, partnership at the state level, that we have stability. Suzanne and I have been in this role at the same time. Chris, Cheryl, you all, it's consistent commitment to this population of children. That's really special.
And especially to the department leadership.
Thanks.
So are these current families that you can utilize this for? This money that's gonna be coming in, is it current in-home, is it that you're able to add more in-home towards current families you have? Or is this gonna be new families that are coming in and this is a separate type of program, not separate, a separate thing that you do that's, that has to be tracked differently and so you have to have different clientele for that?
I think it will be both. One, again, the needs of children and families across the region, across the state, is that they're going to whatever service exists, not necessarily that it's the best service. So they're going to rent. So that's why we're saying, how do we focus in on contracted supports in a different way? And really look at what are the options? Right now our options that we've been using have been with traditional providers, providing in-home services. But could we go outside of that? Could we build contracted supports in a different way to support families in a different way? So those are the things that we're working with the state in collaboration. And I think there's also some real possible synergies across the region, because the Y just were awarded their, it's the substance use grant that first it was reality check held it once, then Y has held it 1 year, 1 5-year period, and they just renewed for a second 5-year period. And so we're partnering with them as well to start to say
Why?
team, yes.
Good.
That's at the drug-free communities, right?
Yes.
Talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah, and you can max have that for 10 years. So they'll be looking for another home for it.
But is that Keene centric?
it is, right now, it's Keene and Swansea centric. And what I've started to say is, we have to start to think about this more broadly. And I think the models of, especially around children's substance misuse prevention work are antiquated. The models that they've all used have been DARE, these other, scare kids not to do drugs. And I think you need to be thinking about what else do we need in our community, have a richer experience in our community to be able to provide options for children so that that is not necessarily where they're going, to go to what might be possible.
So how many more kids do you think would be able to get services?
Can you speak up a little bit?
How many more kids do you think will be able to get services in your catchment area?
We proposed in the narrative 328 over the 4 years, 82.
And those are new kids or just?
They're
existing
supposed to
services?
be new, yeah, unduplicated.
So this could have a bit of an impact on the connected families revenues. Unless you're able to get additional care coordinators that can then concentrate on contract type of cases. Because essentially at the moment, you may have to utilize current care coordinators that are doing cases that are billable that would then have to shift over to the grant. So those cases would no longer be billable because they're.
No, that would be supplanting, but I think I understand what you're saying, that we may take current coordinators, I think Dennis, you're figuring it out,
Exactly what I'm saying.
to fill into these new roles, which would start with new families.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So therefore, the cases.
The
that they-
caseloads that the current ones have, I think would be transferred to other coordinators and you would backfill into those or somehow figure that out, but essentially, yeah, we need to hire 4 new people. Whether it be moving current people over to the grant and then backfilling the contract with new people or just hiring new people directly onto the grant. But there can't be duplication.
And that's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm saying, is there is the potential that they won't be able to take new cases under their old one until they can get other people hired
Yeah,
for the positions that will be going over to the grant. So.
yeah, I think
it-
Dennis needs to work that out.
When is this start?
End of September, and we have 4 months, so to the end of January to launch the brief enhanced care coordination and the in-home services and do a needs assessment The needs assessment is mostly gonna be taken care of through the evaluation contract, but per the grant rules, there's 4 months. Mission accepted, Dennis? To get going with all of these.
And one last question I have. The state's aware of this, I'm guessing,
They had to sign off on it.
and are they ready to step up to the plate and do what they need to do to get their act together so they can start getting caseloads into you guys? Because that's been a problem too with all the goings on, the changes in the department. I'm excited about the leadership that they've chosen. But at the same time, they've got some gaps in there, and so the funnel of new people has been slow.
Daryl, at the Bureau of Children, I forget the whole name of it, Bureau of,
Children's behavioral.
he was part of writing this. He was on
I
our.
understand,
he was on
I
our-
understand,
That's not his question. The
Yeah,
question
there's
is-
another.
Well, that's how devoted he is. He's
yeah, but.
part of it.
He's devoted, however, one thing that has been occurring is that they have a backlog of referrals.
Right.
Staffing short.
They got the kids. It's getting them out the door to services, to dentists. It's been the problem.
Brock should help with that, cause he was saying like, not every kid needs the whole kit and caboodle.
Right, but that's where we're gonna have to work this out. They have to get someone in to get them hired. I'm working, I speak to Daryl probably once or twice a week. I'm working with the other care management entity to bring this issue to our broader work group, because I think it really could jeopardize the whole system of care. That if you're saying, you know, a referral is made, so someone in Keene may say to us, we're gonna make a referral for this child. And then they're calling us saying, why can't you start? And we're saying, we're waiting to get it from the state. So that process has to shift. We are gonna propose to them that, you know, because we also do what's called TREC, it's Transitional Enhanced Care Coordination. These are children transitioning to from residential treatment and psychiatric hospitalization. And in that process, the referrals really are fast. They come in
Faster.
and they're sent over. And the reason is that there is no Medicaid oversight. But why can't we replicate that to some degree? Why can't they're meeting a certain criteria for them to pass them over. Well, let's meet a similar type of criteria and let us do the rest of the work so that we could start working with families sooner. Because if any family that's waiting is not a good situation.
Well, and here's the other thing, one of the metrics that they use to track how efficient and how, you know, we're doing our work to get families into programming is when you do the intake, how long does it take for us to get somebody signed, boom, 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 and if it's stopping at the state level, they have to acknowledge that and not penalize us for, I mean, that's just a side note, but that's just something to remember that
Yeah.
if we did it on this date, we're ready to go by this date, but they're not done until this date. So all of a sudden that 30-day turnaround turns into 72 days. That's on them.
What, and no family
It's-
can tolerate.
It's
Yeah.
like deja vu of many, many moons ago, the state had a couple of counties, we were one of them, do a pilot program of what was called long-term care coordinator. That basically did all the evaluations to make sure that a person in need of nursing home care met the criteria to meet nursing home care, at least on a medical level. And that's what the state now uses, but it's not in the county's hands anymore. It's at the state's level. And because the state struggles with keeping people in these positions, that is something that holds up the Medicaid approval. You not only have to be eligible financially, you have to from a medical standpoint, approve meet eligibility. And the state, when we had it under our control, it was very, you know, get things processed very quickly. You know, we have nurses too that do the evaluation, but the state will not relinquish that back to us anymore. And I mean, it's been like that for a long time. And we go through these ebbs and flows where sometimes they have sufficient staffing, the approvals are going fine, and then other times it just gets backlogged because they don't have the nursing staff. And that's kind of what's going on here, is the state is holding the keys to making that approval process. And I will say, the people that we met with last week, there's been a lot of activity in at least the financial, just the authorizations that are in existence flowing through. So hopefully if those get caught up, it will help them on the other end as well. So keep our fingers crossed.
And here's the other thing that Dennis is fighting against in that with this new program. So we're, our goal is at some point to get to 40 staff on some level total in the department. So he's at probably about 28-ish, 29. So all of a sudden you take, and so on the programming side of it, but now you take 3 people out, so that drops the caseload and it's just like you 2 steps forward than in hiring process. It's a nice problem to have because you have this grant coming in and we should feel really excited about it, but it comes with some complications that you just have to work through, that's all. And that's what we're doing. We're just gonna work through it, but congratulations on it.
Well, I would say congratulations to all of us, because it really is the ability to work together with this group.
And for
The
those,
grant's a team effort.
right, and for those listening and that may not understand, Connected Families New Hampshire, for me, it's real simple. It's a continuum of care. It's us recognizing that these individuals that are struggling for whatever reason, and especially since COVID, we've seen escalation behaviors throughout school districts, really, in families and all stuff, real struggles occurring for whatever reason. That if we do the work in the home and support the families as best we can, then we may not see them in our drug courts, our behavioral health courts, our sheriff's office, our Department of Corrections, our county attorney's office. So this is that. It's also keeping the child in the community as best we can. That's where we think the best, everybody agrees that's where it is. It's also helping on a financial note, because these are situations that tear towns apart. You've heard it time and time again. That all of a sudden there's a child that has to be sent out of district placement for education. Okay, $80,000 to $150,000. But now this child also has to be residentialized too. So now we're talking 300,000. So I've seen as high as 500,000. And that's your special ed costs. And those are things that people always are targeting about special. Why is our special ed cost? Why are we sending so much? Well, this is a solution over time that we believe is going to make a difference in our communities. But the biggest issue is that it will give the child the best chance to be a valued member in the long term in their community as they get through this moment in time. So that's just my little PR for anybody that's listening in or wants to tune in and watch our thing, which a lot of people do. So I would need a motion to accept the Connected Families Grant Award Acceptance award of $4 million over 4 years to improve children, youth, and mental health outcomes by creating a brief enhanced care and coordination program and expanding access to intensive in-home supports.
So, second.
Commissioner England, Commissioner Clark, you have it. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna move on.
Thank you, Dennis.
Dennis, at some point, I want to catch up with you too, at just some point, but not like today, tomorrow, whatever.
It won't be.
Or 5 o'clock
On
Friday.
I know where to go.
Usually it's about 4:30.
Oh, you get the 5 o'clock calls too? Okay.
Yeah.
No, that,
Oh,
we
no,
get the,
he
we
comes
get
in
the
first.
5 calls on Friday.
All of a sudden you.
Oh, I thought you meant, I thought you meant showing up at fireworks.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
That's where Chris. could
He
be.
hunted me down one time on a Friday at like 5:30. It's like, I knew you'd be here.
You guys are lucky, I get to 6 o'clock.
He does. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the county administrator's report. And first and foremost, let's start off with October 7th at 10 o'clock. We have the EMS committee that's going to meet of the delegation. And they're gonna be coming in and we're going to really discuss with them our plans for the future pertaining to how financially structure wise we're gonna be moving forward. Don, I may ask you to come for that meeting just because it may make sense, or at least zoom in to be able to do this presentation of the work you've done, so they see that on one side we're doing this, on the other side we're doing this. Because I think it's an important, it's for them to see the full picture.
First is
7,
What time?
10 o'clock AM. I was asked to reach out to Insurance Commissioner Betancourt to contact him around, we are part of a study committee that's going on right now, and they're doing focus groups, and to ask that we be part of a focus group. There's been no response from him, but there is a meeting coming up on October 10th at 2 p.m. where we will, it's a stakeholders meeting, and we'll be, I'll reiterate my desire to have the team that is doing the study meet with us, because I think we are different than anybody else that they're doing focus groups on. Harry, you had, I don't know if you saw, but I've heard my voicemail, but mobile managers that you talked about in reference to Southwest Regional Planning Commission. Terry Johnson is working on getting us a reply on opportunities that we can take a look at down the road, but and I know that because I asked Todd Horner, the executive director, about it. He's like, yeah, Terry will get in touch with us and set up a time to come and meet with us.
I attended a meeting yesterday. It was to see about the information.
Okay.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, good. September 25th, 6:30, there is I said it last week, I'm gonna keep saying it until the meeting happens. September 25th, 6:30. For those that are attending with me at 6 o'clock, I'll be there at Keene Middle School. It's the community discussion. It's in reference to the young woman who took her life by suicide at the middle school, and they're having a community discussion about that. Currently, Patrick Heenahan from Restorative Community, County's Restorative Community Program, Eli, the sheriff, Dennis Calcutt was just here, myself, and I've asked Commissioner Clark to go with each scheme.
When is it?
It's the 25th, it's at 6:30. I just think it's important for us to be part of the conversation, however, and I've made Rob Millay aware, and he's got a group that's running it. He's taking a step back from it because he wants us, I think they've hired somebody to come in and do it. And so I just made him aware that we'll have a presence there. Not that we have to speak, but we want to listen. We want to hear the concerns.
Where is it?
It's at the Keene Middle School in the auditorium. Adam Caseta, our attorney locally, is working on a contract MOU with Homeland Security. We will have that hopefully by this week, if not early next week, so that we have a meeting with, actually tomorrow, we have a meeting with Homeland Security Director Buxton in reference to the follow-up meeting that we had up in Concord. And so we'll be attending that. We'll be zooming into that meeting and just giving him updates. I talked to Todd Horner. Todd's going to have some proposals around multi-district work that they think they can do around emergency mitigation. And so I'll make them aware that if I don't have the contract by then, that it's going to be coming. And I think I've said this before, what they do is we give them the contract and they send it to their legal then changes all of it and sends back what they want, and then we go from there and see where we land. That's where that's at. Yesterday met with Capital Region Mutual Aid and with Southwest Fire Mutual Aid, with Don and with Pete Danuch, who's also working with Fire Mutual Aid to really help organize the infrastructure portion of it. We're doing the money side of it. Just to tell them, I mean, first of all, they thanked us because they got the same amount that we got. And they believe that our work helped them get their money. So that was nice to hear. They were surprised that we were able to get a congressional spending request and they didn't. But we talked about, other ways. I met with Suzanne and community CDFA is oversees community development block grants, and they have we believe they have an infrastructure grant and through the community development block grant for brick and mortar. They don't consider what we're trying to do for as infrastructure. And so we've asked for a meeting with the executive director so that I can ask them, would they oppose us putting legislation in that would change the legislation to allow us to put in infrastructure such as. And so that we could, and there's a second part of this, even if we did that, their rating system rates us lower to start with, for whatever reason. And they have a metric, but they've told us very clearly that fire is not considered, and so we have to change that. Those are the conversations we're gonna have. But we're looking at seeing if we can put some legislation together to change that. Cause that would be $750,000 I could get for for Southwest Fire Mutual Aid, which would put us close to over 3,000, well, just around $3 million. So, we got to tap every resource we possibly can. So they were excited about hearing that. They are on board with if we put legislation forward to the state for a one-time give. What we learned is that the Lakes region has benefited from the state, supporting them through the years for their facility. And so we want to put some legislation together, but it has to make sense. And we're not going to be critical of them. We're just wanting to be consistent and just ask for, 5 million, 3 million, whatever it may be, split between the two organizations would be outstanding. And then we're done. So we continue to take a look at that. Met with the Business Industry Association yesterday. That's what they were in the team. They were doing a presentation. And at the very end, they were looking at things that they need to be doing. They have lobbyists down in DC. And I said, one of the things they need to do is that last year under the Republican leadership, the opportunities in the House for congressional spending requests went from about 14 categories down to 2. And police is in there, but fire's not. So our ask was, can they take a look at, and I'll reach out to both candidates that are running, Lily and Goodlander.
Did they combine categories or just eliminate?
No, they just eliminated it, and it's really, that's what we thought, but no, it's not. It's law enforcement, and I can't remember what the other one was. But it went like from multiple categories down to 2. So I'm gonna ask Lily and Goodlander to really advocate for us down there, because this is monies that come into us and we've been taking advantage of it. And that's the way we don't burden the taxpayers, is that we're able to get these monies that then help offset things that we would have to ask and put in the budget. And for years, we didn't, when I say we, the state of New Hampshire didn't really do this on the levels. And it was going to Kentucky, it was going to Tennessee, it was going to wherever else, but it wasn't coming here. And if the House narrows it down to 2 categories, and we have one senator that doesn't do any congressional spending requests, and that's Hassan, because she sits on a committee that oversees it, and she thinks it's a conflict. And Senator Shaheen does, really, it's Senator Shaheen that can really bring monies back into the state to help projects, and help communities, and then in doing so, lessen the burden on the taxpayer, and that's why we do it. So that's what I said yesterday. It's pretty much all what I just said. And they actually said it's not one of the ones that was on our radars. Thank you very much. Because they talked about housing, they talked about childcare, they talked about all the normal stuff, but those to me, and I also reminded them, no one, you do a lot of work up at the State House, but when the State House says we have a balanced budget, I say, what does it mean to us? Because the cost shifting that goes on from the state of New Hampshire down is what really puts us in a bind a lot of the times. They mandate certain things that are unfunded, or they have promises, financial promises that all of a sudden they take away. I mean, I brought that up yesterday in that, think about when and I said this to anybody, whether you agree with the pensions or not, doesn't matter. bottom line for me was, they said everybody should be under one pension. So everybody got on one pension, we're gonna pay 32%. And then it went down to whatever percentage it went down to, and then it went away. And what did it mean to the city of Keene? About $750,000. What did it mean to the school district? About $800,000. What did it mean to the county? Probably about the same amount. So that if I'm a taxpayer in the city of Keene, I got hit in 3 different ways with their decision-making in Concord. Those are the stories we have to continually tell people to have them understand that that's what we have to advocate. If the Business Industry Association, every time that you take I said, don't you have one of the lowest tax rates for business and industries in New England? And they said, yes. And I said, but that hurts us because we carry the burden, because less revenues coming in. Then that means that the burden comes back to all of us to do that. And what people don't get is when they say no new taxes in Concord, it means all new taxes down here. And those are the things that we just need to continue to tell our story when we're out there talking to people, is that.
Well, what they're saying is they have no priority for our services. Is there a trend to move? Well, you just said that EMS, they're going to prioritize it, make it an essential service kind of thing. But it appears to me that a lot of this downshifting is because they don't really believe a lot of these things should be a priority. That they don't really believe that we should have quality this or quality that.
The challenge for EMS, because there's so many different models, it's not all municipal, like a fire department is, or a police department, private service, volunteer service, nonprofit, so it doesn't become an essential municipal service. It's essential to the citizens. It's not in the scope necessarily.
Yeah, well, it goes beyond that. I mean, the money that we have to raise for pensions or any other thing. They're saying is that they don't believe that those things, governmental responsibility. They don't want to do it.
Well, it's just broken promises, what it is. It's, the room and meals tax. Where was it? Where is it today? Now, I applaud Senator Riccardi because she actually took our letter that we put in our editorial that went in the Manchester Ivory Place about downshifting. And she put a bill forward. Now, at the end of the day, she wanted here and ended up here, but that's politics. We get that. But at least it increased the rooms and meals tax on some levels. Is it where it's supposed to be? No, but it's sort of like special ed costs. Special ed costs nationally from the government, we get about 18 to 20% back for special ed when we promised 40%. And it's just, these are the things, these are the burdens when people talk about our taxes. We have a regressive, tax, process, right? But we do our job here, but if others aren't, it's just going to make it harder for us in the long run to do what we need to do. So they heard that yesterday. They also heard there people were talking about, we need more housing and I brought up which I think I've said here before, I said Dublin's a prime example of a community not looking at their zoning and what they require for building up new homes. And I said they have a 5-acre rule. And they're crying because the school district in their area wants to close their elementary school, which is the heartbeat of the community. I get all that, but you have 30 kids there. You have 30 kids and you have a zoning that doesn't allow for build outs of new families, like an acre land or whatever it may be. I said, you're hurting your own, that people are hurting their own selves. They shoot themselves in the foot. At least Keene, is talking about building up. They're landlocked for the most part. They're it's. So.
We were discussing in-law apartments.
Mhm.
In Keene where they added the external add to your property.
Yeah.
And, you know, that seems to be working. There's already been one right in my neighborhood. But it's the existing stock, all of these old 2 apartment buildings that we have really have a lot of room that really practically can't be turned into accessory dwellings because of the cost associated with changing the or adhering to a lot of the building codes. So when they're
So that that was yesterday. It was a good meeting. You know, and I think they walked away with some good ideas. So, just a reflection on, I thought Saturday, I don't know what people thought. I thought the swearing in went well, and that I think people enjoyed it. By my count, if I was sitting there counting the audience, it was between 175 and 200 people. If you counted everybody that was in the room, which was a great number. You had the Swansea officials, one of them has contacted me multiple times and said that he's just so proud of the work that we've all done and that we should be thanked for it even more so. And and I know that others that were there just really thought that it was a great opportunity. I don't know, Chief, if you had got any feedback.
Yeah, my staff was a little surprised, but grateful for it because this isn't something that happens in EMS specifically all that often. Because like Don said, of how the different systems are made up, so it was very well received, and you know, they're wrapping their heads around it a bit more.
Yeah. So just the swearing in on Saturday. You were I said that
Yes.
she was recognized.
You are.
And
So
what do you mean they're wrapping their heads around it?
because it's something new. I mean, a lot of other municipal agencies will do it, whether it's law enforcement or fire. But most of my staff comes from the private EMS side. So they're not quite like, well, why do we have to do this? It's like, well, because we're a municipality and this is what municipalities do. So
well, it went a long way for public recognition, you know.
that is, yeah.
That-
So
Kind of mixed emotions.
We almost went into crisis early on because these guys don't know how to go into a row.
true.
And I thought about it, I would have said, we should have put a piece of paper, D, C, B,
You need
A.
more close.
And had captains come down and looked at them and just walked in because it was like all of a sudden, it's like the bagpiper starts playing and all of a sudden the door opens. And you just see these guys and it's person after person after person. I'm like, this is really cool. This is great. And then all of a sudden they get down there and like, where do we, well, it's right there, guys. It's right there. Just somebody just do it.
How many times do we have to explain it? But yes.
Yeah, but they did it. And then we had we had comments and then we had the swearing in and I think it just ended up well. And then we broke bread together with everybody and then everybody went on their way and continued their day. So I think it was a healthy day.
Yes. Never be done again. Yep. On that scale.
Yep. And I'll be meeting with Rod Bouchard tomorrow and Southwest Regional Planning around IT practices and what they've been doing a survey on needs in our community towns, and what they're lacking, what they need, and if there's more that we could be doing. I don't know what that means in the scheme of things. But it's early in the conversations, but that's just something that we've been talking about.
Talking to Surrey officials, and they're still saying that in Surrey, there's like hardly any internet. The fiber optic hasn't gone there. There's still pockets.
I would say to them, they're lucky. But on some levels, because then they can, I look forward to the day that I can put my phone down. I don't have to worry about it, you know? So, that's my report, unless you have questions of me. Otherwise, I'm gonna move on to old business. New business. All right, consent agenda items, vote to accept the weekly manifest and minutes of September 11th, 2024.
So move. Second.
Commissioner England, Commissioner Clark, thank you. Calendar, there is nothing that I'm aware of except for we are at the nursing home next week. And general discussion for commissions, I think we've already done that. And so the two non-publics that we're gonna be looking at today is a non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A3D, considering the acquisition, sale, or release of real or personal property. And then also a non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A3(2), consideration of legal advice provided by legal counsel, whether present or not. And those are the two that we're going to be. I'm going to hit record, stop record, and then we can go into vote to go into non-public. Well, actually, both of them go to non-public.
Second.
Commissioner England, Commissioner Clark, we are in non-public.
Remember, do not have eyes. Just remember, do not run away at the very end. 'Cause I need
Oh, no, we gotta sign all that stuff.
Want a motion?
Okay, can you make a motion to adjourn, please?
I so move to adjourn.
Second.
All right.
Aye.
Commissioner England, Commissioner Clark, yes, guys.
Charlie's gonna vote, sign on that side,
Thank
so.
Cheers.
Bye, Bob.
Bye-bye.
Oh, no, I'll, just to make it easy, I'll go through and flip where it needs to be flipped.